everyone, welcome back to RTS and welcome back to my living room. Yes, because I am absolutely going to do something different today. We are going to do a flip through of my Hawaii album, which was done completely in the project lifestyle. Now, I have some pros and cons that went with it, and also some things that I did within this album as far as including memorabilia, postcards, and also one of the biggest accomplishments I ever did, and that was doing and using 50 photos on a one-page layout. Yes, 50 on a one-page, not a two-page, but a one-page layout. So that will be coming at the end. A little bit of fun, yes. And then also how I feel about these albums and the overall type of project life, pocket page scrapbooking to do an album when you're used to doing something like this, a 12x12 format. Okay, so now this is a 12x12 layout that I have of this trip, and why would I have this if I've already completed the album? I'll talk about that in just a minute too. So let's get started. I'm not going to try to make this too long because I'm sitting on the floor. I'm an old lady. Yes, this is a little hard, but you know what? We're just going to sit, chat, and have fun. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. I'm going to sit this here so I don't forget. Okay, so, and you may see some of my camera equipment. It's just what I had to do. Sorry about that, but that's okay. So the album that I use is a We Are Memory Keepers. Of course, it's a beautiful turquoise, and I will say that these are beautiful albums, and at one time, this was so worth every single penny of $30. I don't know how much they are now. I haven't bought any for a few years, but they had a very heavy-duty protective corners. The downfall is that they can scratch furniture, so you have to be careful, especially with the label. They can scratch your table, any type of coffee table, anything very, very quickly, and they can also scratch your little one's legs and laps, so you have to be careful. That's the downfall of these, but at one time they were the best albums on the market. That is when We Are Memory Keepers was We Are Memory Keepers. Can't say that anymore. But some of my subscribers had said that at Michael's now you can find this type of faux leather album and they're really good quality. So give that a look through, you know, and you can use a coupon there. So, okay, so the first thing I want to show is that this is a 3-ring binder. So when you're doing a trip of a lifetime, or you know, just a big event or a big trip and you have some memorabilia, one thing you can do is remember you have the inside seam of this album that you can use and utilize to house memorabilia. And I have one of these little, what do they call, luau girls or whatever, you know, they do that. Oh, what is that? I can't even think of it. Oh my goodness. But you know what I'm talking about. One of those little, I'm going to call her a Waikiki girl. But anyways, it's just a keychain hanging there because you have the space. Might as well use it. Bring some of that trip back home with you. Yes. Now in the front here you will see layouts that are in the 8x8 size. Now why would this be in this album? Because I wanted to talk about something that when you are working and planning the work of a huge mega album, of a trip or a holiday, you know what I'm talking about. And I'd say you have to approach it that it's like a paint job in your home. It's 75% prep and 25% work. And so how I went about this album is that when I came back, there was just some photos that stood out to me and I loved them. And so I printed, I think there was maybe 10 or 12. I printed them in a 5x7 photo because they were my favorite photos. And then I just simply did a quick, very, very quick, small size album just so I could have this album. Basically, if this was all I ever did, now this was in an 8x8 album at one time. If that's all I did, then I would say, okay, well, I scrapbooked my trip, okay? Because a trip of this size and an album of this size takes time. It's not something you do in a month. No, it takes a few months, several months to do this. And so when I came back, I printed my favorite shots in 5x7, did a very, very quick page with that, with a pre-made embellishment, and that's all that was. And this was an 8x8. Now the reason they're in here, because I tore that 8x8 down, because over the years I do not do small size scrapbooking, and I'm just going to do a flip through of what this 8x8 was, because I am exclusively a 12x12 scrapbooker at heart. Yes, so I have been tearing down all my themed albums, things like that, and incorporating them in. So now when I say that when I did this 8x8 album, it was just so that I could get a feeling that I had something accomplished, and of course it was my favorite photos. And what does it say? Snapshots. It doesn't have no date or anything, it was just in an album. I might have had a title page, and then I used the pre-made embellishments. I think they were by K & Company, something like that. And so then I had that album to look at while I was working on this mega album, if that makes sense. And so now that I have this album done, I've had it done for several years. Now I get to play with these snapshots and again do something like this. Okay, now this album here, this layout here, this photo was incorporated in this 8x8 album. See, you can see that empty spot right there. And so then this will go in my 2005 family album, not this album, if that makes sense. So just a little bit of fun playing with these extra photos and the special photos. And the reason why I'm doing this is because when I did this album, this trip was in 2005, so it was many years ago, but I still want to relive that trip and also record this story with the style that I'm doing now. It's just something a little extra. You don't have to. When you're done, but you know what I'm saying. So that's why these here are in the front, because I am protecting these photos until I go to use them on some scrapbook pages now, because like I said, this was done several years ago. You can see 2005 was when the trip, so I would say probably end of 2006, beginning of 2007. That was what, 13 years ago that I've had this done? Yes. And I have changed the album, but all of these, when you see these Project Life pages, okay, and you can tell right there's all those embellishments, very, very simple title page. Yes, and this was probably my favorite photo, and I'm hoping you're getting all of this. I tried to raise my equipment so you could see everything. So this was my favorite photo, so of course I went on the title page, did it in a 5x7, and this looks like a bigger 5x7, and that's how you can get away with it on a 12x12 page, is to do a mat, with a mat, with a mat, on a mat. Yes, the photo looks bigger. Yes, it looks like it takes almost up the whole page. It's just a 5x7 print. Okay, so then let's get into this, and so you can see that with this, I may even change this later on, may not, depends. It all depends on what I want to do. Okay, so I would say with doing a Project Life style album, there are some pros and cons, and I'm just going to cover them right now. The pro is that I think it's less expensive than to buy traditional collection of papers and supplies and embellishments, things like that. It's basically, at one time it was one and done. You bought the protectors, you bought the filler cards, and you were done. Okay, and so I think it's very less expensive, but I think it's more time extensive, and I don't think it's as creative. But when you're working with an album such as this, sometimes the goal isn't to be creative, it's to document the trip or the event, whatever. And so you just basically have to tell yourself, do you want it done, or do you want to be creative about it? So if you see what I'm saying, if I would have did something like this for every place we visited or the photos, it would have took a lot longer. I wouldn't have it done. So the pro is that it's done. The con is I think it was harder to do than a normal 12x12 page, okay? And then the other thing I found that with Project Life protectors, because all of these here are Project Life protectors, is that they all, I don't know if you can see this, but they all bend and curl in the corner. And I don't know if it was a design problem, because the holes, if you can see, if I move that, see how these holes, they shift and they shift and they shift, and I don't know if that shifting causes weight on these page protectors when they're in the album, because they're standing up, and though it comes down, you see what I'm saying, and then every one of these corners are bent. So every so often I have to bend the corners to get them to lay flat, and even then they still don't. So I think that was a pro. Now remember, I think this was the beginning stages of this Project Life line. It's been, around forever now. So maybe that was just something, excuse me, that was a design problem in the beginning. Maybe that's not a problem anymore, but that's what I ran into. Okay, and so of course you can see I just have an introduction, and I used 4x6 photos, used wallets. I do have some things covered up, and then you also notice as I'm doing this flip through that I did not use any alphas and I did not use any thickers, and I think that was another way to save money, because I printed wherever we were, I printed that out, because all my journaling was printed. I did, computer generated journaling, because I had a lot to say, and then all I did was print this on Microsoft Word, and then I would adhere my journaling card, my Project Life card, over top of my journaling, and then ran it through again. Easy peasy. So again, I used the traditional Becky Higgins Project Life, the four 4x6 and the 3.5. What was that, 3.5 by 4? I think something like that. And then this is the Design B. I'm sorry, I don't have a drink with me. I'm sorry. This is design B. Okay, so then I'm just going to keep doing a flip through as I'm talking, and you can see Hawaii is probably the most gorgeous place I've ever visited. Okay, now all of these photos that I have were taken by me, and all I used was my Fuji camera. I love my Fuji camera, and every one of these photos were printed with my Epson PictureMate. I think Fuji and Epson together is like a Reese's peanut butter cup. Perfect marriage. Yes, I just love that. And again, you can see I got some stamping in, okay? And then I would say again, see how I just did some stamping here, used a little bit of an edge punch, and then I just gave me a shelf for my title of where we were. Okay, again, stamped on some of these filler cards that didn't have anything. I just did some stamping. Allie Edwards stamps, yes, back in the day when she was with Technique Tuesday. Oh, gorgeous stamp sets. Okay, yes, I wish they would have that. I wish they would come together for that collaboration. Yes, maybe they could do that down the road. Okay, and so again, I would say, as I'm doing this flip through, I would say one of the hard things about this, the hardest part of doing an album of this size, because I had a lot of photos, we did a lot of things on this trip, was configuring the photo sizes. Meaning, I have 4x6 photos here. Sorry about that. I have 4x6 photos here. So as I'm planning this spread, and we were in Hilton, Hawaii, Hilton Village is what we call it. When we were in the Hilton Village, okay, so then this is my thought process. This is what I wanted to show. But then I had to make sure that when I did the next one, which was about the flowers and the palm trees and things like that, I had to plan what was going to go here on the left, because this is what I did on the right previously. So that, to me, I think the photo configuration is absolutely, it was just hard for the brain, and so it took planning. Again, that's what I said. It's like it was like a paint job, 75% prep, and then the work of just sliding everything is. Yes, and that was the marketing point of Project Life, is that it's very simple. You just slide things in. Well, before you can slide things in, you got to know what photo configurations. And for me, I printed at home, so I had a little bit more leeway. So then if I went to go work on this spread here, say this was the flea market, and so say if I had printed this picture of my little one in a wallet, but yet I needed it in a 4x6, I could just go back and print it. But if you were sending photos out, I would say this takes a lot of brain power. But all in all, the album is done. I'm not going to complain. I'm happy with it. Would I do this again? This was at the Dole Plantation. If you ever get a chance to visit there, lovely. Yes, absolutely. Was taught how to slice a pineapple correctly at the Dole Plantation. Yes, just beautiful. Beautiful place, beautiful maze. The one thing I would say, that if you're, I was going to say, would I do this again? Good question. Okay, because this is done. It's fun to look through. I'm not crazy about how things, just like this, I'm not crazy about how these things slide out of this. Not crazy about that, not a fan of that. But I will say, I have some other trips coming up, and I have a lot of photos that I want to scrap. So I think what I would do, like some people have been showing, is that to scrapbook a traditional 12x12 and then use a divided page protector for extra photos, but then you have to consider what's going to be on the back of that when you place it in the album. So I will definitely use divided page protectors in the future in my albums, but I don't think I would ever do another entire album with this pocket page scrapbooking. I think it's too hard to plan. I mean, planning a vacation, planning a vacation stuff, but then when you're coming home and then you want to plan an album of everything that you did and everything you saw, and you want to document, and then a lot of times I documented where we were and what was the history. Example for this Waikiki Beach. See what I'm saying? I'm always having to put things back in these pockets. That drives me bonkers. When I put things in a page protector, I want it in. Now, I will speak about that right now. Some people will say, well, you can take washi tape and put it over top of that and your photos won't slide out. And I have to say, if I have to add a product to use a product, I'm not going to use that product. That's just me. And then some people will say, well, you can use, cut your photos and your mats down even smaller than the allotted space and use your fuse tool. Well, I don't have one of those tools. And second of all, if I have to sew or fuse a pocket together to keep something in, I just won't use that product. So, you know what I'm saying? Eliminate the problem. And so I would say the configurations, things falling out, that's the downfall. But the biggest pro is that it's done. you know. And I think it's done very less expensive. So I'm not going to complain about that. So as I was saying about why I could keep each, as I did my journaling, I made sure I incorporated the details about where we visited, because this just wasn't, just go and have fun. No, it was an educational trip for me and my little one. Yes. And so, of course, different bays and different lookouts, things like that. And again, configuring the photos. Oh, and then along with that, then I had to configure how much journaling I had, where it was going to go. Was it going to go on one of these? Again, shifting things back in, shifting things back in. Was it go on one of these 2.5 by 3.5? I think that's the size. Or was it going to go here? And then if I decided I had more journaling, then that meant that photo wasn't going to go here. I was going to have to print it in Wallet. And then where was I going to move things? It was like a game of chess. It really was. Okay. But the end result is pretty. You take the good with the bad. Again, so then these are just pictures of the city of Honolulu and things like that. And again, just beautiful, beautiful. Now, I will say this Project Life collection that I bought, I think it went really well with my Hawaii pictures. So again, I was happy with that. Yes. But pocket page scrapbooking in and of itself, to me, I think is harder than traditional scrapbooking like this. Now, this is a little bit more creative than I normally do, but I'm saying I think it's harder because you have to think about each one of these blocks in and of itself rather than the whole 12 by 12 block as a whole. I think it takes more thinking, more brain power. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on flipping through. So again, you can see where I stamped and did some more stamping, and then again with my titles of my spreads, I printed them on my computer. I took the easy way. Yes, because a lot of these, the Hawaiian alphabet only has, 13 letters, and a lot of those are vowels. There's no way I could afford thicker set after thicker set or alphabet set after alphabet set. So doing them on the computer saved me money, okay? And then, of course, it didn't have so much bulk, okay? Because I have problems with these protectors shifting anyways. Yes, I don't need any extra bulk. Okay, so again, just more flip through of the bays and the coves, just absolutely gorgeous. Then, of course, Pearl Harbor, which for someone like me that's a very sensitive person, this was a hard place to visit. It really was. It was a very draining day, but it's part of history, learning about that, and having my daughter understand what all this means. And then, of course, we went to Battleship Missouri, I think. Yes, Battleship Missouri, things of that. And then more photos. These were some different snapshots. And then, of course, you can see where I did stamping on these little cards. Of course, shifting everything back in, shifting everything back in. Every time you look through this album, that is what you have to do. You have to put everything back in. Okay, just a little bit of a nuisance. Okay, and then, of course, you can see here on the back with this divided page protector, I incorporated little snippets of memorabilia, and I had cut some of this down to fit, okay, but fun little use of this back page of this. And then right here is where I did 50 photos. There's 10 across and 10 down, 50 photos on a one-page spread. Now, this was using my little label punch. If you can see, I'll point it out. See, that's all it is. It's just a label, but I took that label and I put it on a lot of extra photos, and some of it was just little bits of a photo, like right there's a tree trunks, right here's some dirt, right here's a little bit of a pineapple. So it was just little, sometimes I used 4x6, sometimes it was Wallet. It was just wherever I could put my label punch and get a representation of all of this, of different little things, different signs, the trolley, things like that, when we were at the luau and at the beach, and then of course the buildings. And so then I took that photo that was in the label shape, and then I matched them up to the next label that was in that photo shape, and then that is how I got 50 on there. Yes, absolutely love that. And I just titled it Snapshots of Hawaii. Very, very fun, easy to do, and a great use of leftover photos. So I'm hoping someday I do that again soon. I would love to do this type of page, one on the left and one on the right, of just sporadic photos of however many years. I mean, wouldn't that be fun? Yes. So a great use of leftovers. Okay, and then on back here, I did layouts where I had postcards, because some of the postcards that I got there showed more of aerial views of where we visited, because, you're on an island. And so like when we visited and we absolutely climbed Diamond Head, that was amazing. you don't get to see this view when you're doing things like that. So I wanted to incorporate postcards. All I simply did was just treated them as if they was a horizontal photo, and I did 4 on each page. And again, more postcards, simple, simple. And then on the back, I have a pocket. These were by KI Memories. There's just a pocket, and I included my memorabilia as far as pamphlets, things like that. I even have an extra CD. You can tell how old this is. CD of photos, extra photos. I just stuck it in there. It was extra. And then, of course, just a little bit of some embellishments. Nothing too crazy, because you can see my embellishments. I don't have. Let's look here. I don't have embellishments. All I have is photos and journaling and computer-generated title and some stamping. So the stamping, I think added, you can see right here, some stamping on this card here and stamping here. It added some color, and it added some, you know, a little bit of something to my album, but I didn't want the bulk because I wanted to have as much as I could in this album. I didn't want bulk. And so let's just see. And I'm not going to count these 8x8 because this really isn't part of the album. These are just being protected at this time. So I'm going to count how many page protectors. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. There was 27 page protectors, so you know if you double that, that's how many pages are in there. And this one on the back, this has a lot of lump and bump because there's a lot of memorabilia in there. So everything for this entire trip is in this album, and that was how many, because I know someone had asked me how much did I get in this album, and even with these 8x8s, my album still closes. I mean, that adds some extra there. My album closes really nicely. Okay, so I would say you could get 30 of those page protectors in easily, but then please note that there was only a couple layouts that have embellishments. Okay, the rest basically are all flat. So I hope that let me go to some pretty photos. Yes, pretty. Yes, I mean, just look how big these leaves were. Beautiful colors. It is absolutely the most beautiful place I've ever visited. Yes, just absolutely God's glory right there. Absolutely. So that is my Hawaii album flip through. I hope it gave you a little bit of tropical feel. I wish it would bring me some sunshine because the sun was out. Now it's gone. And I hope this was a little bit, I hope you could see this because of course I'm at a different location as far as filming and things like that, but then also to show that doing a project lifestyle album can be done. I think it takes more time as far as configuring the photos, but overall I think it makes for a great album because basically what you're doing is you're putting the emphasis on your photos and your journaling and away from product. Okay, so that's the difference, okay? But for me, what I'm doing is I'm incorporating a little bit of both because I still love these photos, and so every once in a while I'll take one of those 8x8, the beginning of how this all started, and my favorite photos from that trip, and I'm making it into a pretty page just for the creative side of it, okay? But again, I wanted to document this album, so I think pocket pages are an excellent way to do some documenting. It's just that your photos, knowing what size you're going to need and where you're going to absolutely put them, that does take some brain power. But all in all, yes, scrapbooking is very enjoyable. You just take it and you run with it. Yeah, okay. So that is all I have for this Hawaii flip through album. I hope it gave you a little bit of time just to sit and enjoy this beautiful state. Just absolutely gorgeous. I will tell you, the one thing that surprised me was how many rainbows we would see. We'd literally see rainbows every single day throughout the day. And then also too, Waikiki Beach is not what I thought it was. No, I even have it here. It's much smaller than you think. It is only 2 miles long, which doesn't seem long at all. I thought it was way bigger than that. But anyways, so I better stop talking because this is enough of a flip through. So that is what I have for today. I hope it was something that you got to see a little bit of a share. And if you have done an entire album, such as, a big trip in Project Lifestyle, can you please list below what you found to be the pro, what you found to be the con, and some tips and tricks you have, because we can all learn and share with each other. Yes. So that is all I have for today. I wish I was there. Yes. And if you live in this state, I only have one thing to say. You are one lucky duck. Yes, absolutely. So come back to RTS, because you never know what we're going to do. Bye.